Warning, this content might be uncomfortable to watch for some audiences. I was unwillingly grandpa gangbanged. r/confessions. Confessions by anonymous people that show how messed up people can be. I think I wanna kill myself. I feel sick. I feel like I have a rock in my throat. A pit in my stomach. My eyes are sore. I feel so alone. My only friend that I had. We knew each other almost 2 years. We talked and played games every single day. When we were awake we were talking. We became really good friends, then flirted a little, then a lot. But I treated him badly. I didn't text him all day and blamed him for me not texting him. Then that night I played with friends and did not join his party right away. He was so upset he blamed me for his friends never wanting to play anymore because he devoted his time to me. He felt he put more effort into us. Now he completely cut me off, doesn't open my messages, doesn't answer my invites. I loved him and I miss him so much. I bore my heart and soul out to him. I did what no woman should do. I begged and apologized to show him how much I cared. What he doesn't know is I've been crying ever since. I can't control it. I literally can't help it. I get hysterical. I'm trying to let him go, but it's so hard when you have no one. I thought he would have been the last person to do something like that to me, and that's why this hurts so much. He was so genuine and kind, sweet, so thoughtful and selfless. He cared for me. I know he did, which is why this hurts so much, because he made it seem so easy. I've been sad a long time, but I think he was holding me together after him giving up so easily. I don't really see a point anymore. I've come so close. I wrote letters for my family apologizing for being so weak and telling them how much I love them. I've never felt ready before, but now I do. I hate to admit it. I wanna die. I never thought there was even a small chance I'd have to resort to something like this, and I still can't believe it actually happened. I feel like a total failure and I can't stop thinking about how awful this past weekend was. The thought of those men being inside me is stopping me from sleeping, and I cry all day. My backstory: I'm 19 years old and graduated from high school June 2019. I actually had great grades and could have gone to college, but all I've ever wanted to do is be an actress. I got the chance to come and work as an assistant for some people on Broadway, so I took my chances, moved to New York City, and started working there. Things were going mostly pretty well at first, but I quickly realized that my salary was even worse than I had realized for someone living in New York City. I was really stupid and signed on my own apartment that I can't at all afford, and I'm stuck in the lease until the end of 2021. By the end of 2019 I had started sleeping with sugar dadders I met online to support myself. Mostly it wasn't so bad. I was pretty lucky that most of those guys were relatively young and in shape. I did have to fuck a few men in their 60s/70s who were gross, but I just closed my eyes, let them do what they wanted to do to me, and told myself the sacrifice would pay off. Then, COVID happened, and in March, everything in Broadway shut down. I was laid off and barely got enough severance to cover 1 month of rent. Basically, I was screwed. I tried to cover the rent by becoming much more aggressive with how many dadders I saw, but most of those men left the city when things got bad here, and I quickly ran out of options. Which brings us to now. Last month I finally hit the point where I literally couldn't pay rent and now face eviction. I was desperate, so I started applying for mostly nude modeling jobs. I finally got a call back for a job in Florida, which paid a ton of money and seemed perfect, until about halfway through the call, when I realized this wasn't just nude modeling, it was porn. I was about to say no, when they told me that, if I went to Florida they would pay me $6,000 for 1 weekend of work. This would be huge for me given how desperate I am. I said I'd agree to it on the condition that I could approve who I worked with, know exactly what was expected, who with, and for how long, before going to Florida. They agreed and said they would send me a schedule of scenes, shooting partners, and breakdown of what I had to do for approval. They booked me a flight for last Thursday and told me I would have the schedule before then. Thursday comes around and finally I get the schedule. They provided 3 scenes I would be expected to complete on Saturday, and it was all fine. Basically just 2 normal one-on-one BJ and sex scenes with 2 different men aged 28 and 36, then a BJ scene with a guy my age, 19. I looked them up, all were in shape and good looking, so I had no problem with the scenes. But they didn't include Friday. I called to ask and was told that was just a mistake and Friday would probably be 2 more similar scenes with the same guys. At that point I decided I needed the money and decided to pull the trigger and get on the plane. Friday morning I was told to meet with one of the men I'd be filming a scene with who could drive me from my hotel to the studio. I met him in the lobby and he was great, nice, good looking, and did a great job of putting my mind at ease. I was actually starting to feel a little excited. I was definitely willing to fuck him and was actually getting a little turned on at the idea of doing it in front of people. In fact, I was pretty happy I got to sleep with this guy and get paid to do it. So we get to the studio and walk in. I'm introduced to the camera crew, the owner, and some other girls doing scenes that day. They took me to an office room where they did the standard checks like STD tests, etc. Once that was done they said they needed to get the talent for each scene to sign off. I should have realized something was off at this point. They told me they would start by having me sign my contracts for my Saturday scenes. So each of the 3 men I'd be working with on Saturday came in and we signed the contracts and it was all good. Then they sent those men out and told me that they would do the Friday scenes next. I was expecting one of the same men to come back in next. Wow, was I wrong? After a few minutes who walks in but the fucking owner. To paint a picture, this guy's probably about 5 minutes and 10 seconds, 250 pounds. He is in his 60s, balding, disgusting neck beard, and I could smell him as soon as he came in the room. Suddenly I realized why they didn't tell me who I was working with on Friday. It was him. I basically begged them, even in front of the gross man I was supposed to work with, to let me do something else. When they wouldn't budge I asked them if we could cancel the whole thing and they didn't have to pay me, but they told me that I would be on my own to get a flight home and that all the other scenes would be cancelled. I was trapped. And to top it off, the second scene that day was a grandpa gangbang with me and 5 men in their 60s as well. I tried my best to get out of it, but I realized I was stuck. So, I did it. For almost 2 hours I let this overweight, sweaty, dirty pig of a man do whatever he wanted to me. And I let him do it to me in front of cameras and with a room full of people watching. At times people would openly laugh and mock me for what I was doing. There was absolutely nothing attractive about this man. He was so fat I had to lift his stomach up so that I could suck his dick. And it smelled like death. In fact, I puked. When he was on top of me thrusting, with his massive belly smothering me, and gallons of his sweat dripping on me, I was forced to look at him and pretend to enjoy it, but inside I was screaming and fighting back tears at the thought that this man was actually inside me. Partway through he forced me to eat his ass and farted in my face rather than check on me. Everyone laughed and he forced my head between his ass cheeks further, and then just to hurt me more, halfway through the scene he, unannounced, put his penis in my ass. I hadn't agreed to anal at all and tried to tell him no, but by that point I felt like I was frozen. So I let it happen. For almost an hour I let this man, who by that point I hated more than almost anyone else in the world, fuck me in the ass for the world to see. By the time he jizzed on my face I was broken. When he made me lick it up and hold it in my mouth for pictures, I didn't even fight back. I just did it. And then he made me sit while he peed on my face. I said nothing. The scene ended, and I barely remember what happened. The man who had just degraded me beyond belief said nothing. I was rushed off to a shower, had my macupre done, and less than an hour later I was standing naked on another set, surrounded by 5 men in their 60s and 70s, ready for a gangbang. And I felt nothing. For almost 3 hours I let 5 men, each 10 to 20 years older than my dad, do whatever they wanted. They didn't care at all about what I said I wanted to do. They all fucked me, did double penetration, made me give them all rim jobs, and dumped 5 loads of jizz on my face. I let 5 disgusting old men with zero respect for me treat me like a sex toy. The whole experience? Gross. So gross. When the scene was done I took a shower and collected my money. $3,000. For $3,000, I let 6 old men take away my dignity, self-respect, and completely own my body. That night I went back to the hotel, curled up in a ball, and cried myself to sleep. The next day I knew I had to get through the 3 scenes I signed up for. The first two scenes would have been great. It was two of the men I had previously been told I would work with. To be fair to them, they were wonderful, polite, respected my boundaries, and professional. If all scenes were like that, I thought I could do more porn. But I didn't enjoy it. Not one bit. Because in every scene, the owner was watching. And all I could think about was having to feel him inside me. It was all I could do to get through the scenes without crying. Finally, my last scene came around. I was supposed to give a blowjob to the 19-year-old. All I wanted to do was get it over with and leave as fast as possible to catch my flight home. I walked up to the set and my stomach dropped. The 19-year-old was unavailable, and I would be giving a blowjob to the owner again. Once again, I suffered through one of the worst hours of my life. He smelled so bad that sucking him off for an entire scene was almost as bad as fucking him. At one point I even considered offering my pussy, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. Finally, he blew a load of jizz in my mouth that tasted like battery acid. I immediately got up and walked to the shower, and he followed me. He cornered me in the shower and told me that if I wanted to get paid I had to do him one more favor. At this point I was completely broken and told him to hurry up with what he wanted so I could leave. He took me to another studio set and made me have sex with him again. This time, I barely showed emotion. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of breaking me. So for another 30 minutes I laid there surrounded by people, letting this absolutely disgusting pervert, who I now hated more than anyone in the world, use my body as he pleased. I ended up leaving Florida $6K richer but full of shame. I don't even know what I'm going to do when videos of me fucking that man find their way to Pornhub or something. The whole experience was absolutely gross. I fucked no less than 6 old men I had absolutely no attraction to. I let them do anything they wanted, and it was all caught on camera as proof. Not to mention 2 more younger men fucked me as well. The money has helped me become more financially solid, but won't last until Broadway reopens. I don't think I'll do porn again, but I've accepted at this point that sex with old men is going to be my life until this whole thing ends. My boss, F30, sexually assaulted me, M20, and I don't think I'm gonna do anything about it. I don't really like talking about it, so I'm just gonna keep this brief. But basically we had work drinks that went pretty late and the bar we were at ended up closing, so we being the remaining 10 or so coworkers and her, went back to hers for kick-ons. At first we were all out on the patio drinking, but over time we all spread out, and at one point me, a female coworker and my boss were in her bedroom, just to see something my boss wanted to show off. The other girl left, and my boss started getting weird, asking me weirdly personal questions I just brushed off, since she was incredibly drunk and had had a lot of MDMA. She eventually said some really inappropriate comments that stumped me, and while I just stood there dumbfounded she groped me and started kissing me. She quickly stopped laughing, saying no we can't do this is naughty, and just walked out, like it was some silly mistake. I honestly don't know how to feel about it, was just kind of icky and uncomfortable, but I don't feel the way girls do when they talk about being sexually assaulted. I still have to see her almost every day and act like it never happened, which sucks, and is a big contributing reason I'm not gonna tell anyone. What if she denies it, and I have to keep working there? She controls the roster and she's actually been giving me more shifts since, I'm guessing out of guilt, which have actually been great, because I was getting to the point financially where I was considering moving back in with my parents. I just don't want to go through all that when I'll probably end up looking like a liar. I don't want to embarrass myself, and I really need the money from the extra shifts. I like to live as someone I'm not. So, I'm a guy in my very early 20s, and I live my everyday life as a guy, and I like myself the way I am, but I also love nothing more than to wear women's clothing, do my makeup, put on a wig and false nails, etc., and basically just present and live as a woman in every way. I have a fairly large section of my wardrobe filled with women's clothing, high heels, makeup, etc. I'd be lying to you if I said there wasn't a sexual component to this, as I find it particularly arousing when I present as feminine, but I also find it extremely therapeutic and relaxing, almost as if I can finally be me, if that makes any sense. At the moment I'm living with 2 female roommates, so for obvious reasons I can't dress for long periods of time, usually only a couple hours here and there, but I'll hopefully have a place of my own soon, so I'll be able to live as my feminine self day and night, if I choose to. It's not something I'm ashamed of, but obviously it's not the kind of thing that comes up in conversation, lol. TBH, I also don't really know what will happen with this in the future, because I never told any of my past girlfriends, so I don't know what will happen when I get really serious with someone later on. Who knows, maybe I'll find a girl that I can openly share this with. But yeah, basically just needed to get this off my chest. Thanks. I hooked up with my first boss teen daughter. So, I'm feeling shitty, and I kind of just want to put this out there. My first job was at a family-owned business, and spent some 5 years there, going from young salesman to working directly with the owner at the head office. I got to meet most of his family, like his wife, son, parents, siblings and some cousins, and even spent nights at his home, when I worked until very late. I also remember, now that he told me about a child he had, and that the child lived with his ex, but I didn't pry. After all, he was my boss and older than me, since I got that job right after leaving high school, so he wasn't really a friend. Still, he became a bit of a mentor to me, and I left in good terms. That was like 7 or 8 years ago, and I really liked him. Now, I'm working in the public sector, and got this weekend and Monday off due to overtime. I decided to check up on Tinder and other dating apps. I match up with this girl, and spend some time talking, until I invite her over, pick her somewhere, and spent the extended weekend together. She happens to be a couple of years younger, but she was clearly more experienced than me, and I liked her a lot. So I feel like this could be a thing. We are both single and hit it off, so why not? She had mentioned that she lived with her divorced mother, and was going to apply to the same university I went to and everything. So we start talking about family, and she mentions that her father is totally absent and only sends her cash. I only realized who it was when she said that he is the owner of a ex-retail company, and I suddenly ask, oh, is he John Smith? Obviously not his name. Frankly, I know that she is a legal adult and everything, but I feel really shitty now. I mentioned that I worked for him and it really soured her mood as well. I dropped her back home, and she seems to have gotten over it, but I don't want to bring this up with others yet. I will probably just delete this, but I kind of need to vent out, or I'm gonna blow at work. I don't want to ghost her either, but I feel bad, and my friends are probably gonna act like it's a great thing to get it on with a pretty girl, regardless of how it will play out in the future. I don't feel a lot when my family hugs me / tells me they love me. Let me just say that I'm not saying I don't love my family or feel emotions. I do. I love my family with my whole heart. We don't agree on things, and usually I just stay quiet, but still, I'm also aware that I'm loved. I know they love me, I just have trouble really believing it. So this is going to be dumb, but whatever. I'm pretty sure I'm bisexual. Honestly, looking back, I've had signs since middle school and elementary school, but just never realized it. I can't remember anything in my first 2 years of high school. I got super depressed 10th grade and 9th grade. Me didn't think about anything outside of school. Junior year was when it started, and senior year really solidified it. My family is homophobic. My dad especially. My brother is too. My mom is a bit more tolerant, but she's the type that's okay with gay people, but doesn't want anyone in her family to be. My grandma is too. My aunts are more accepting, but they'd still look at me differently. Same with my uncles. It's very difficult to accept love from people knowing that 2 little words, I'm bisexual, would make that love disappear. It's very confusing hearing my mom say she loves me so much, knowing deep in my heart, if I ever told her, she wouldn't love me anymore. It's very difficult hugging my father, only to know he probably wouldn't want to see me ever again, let alone hug me, if I ever told him. I don't even want to talk about my grandma. I can't even think about how she would react, considering she gets set off when I make one little mistake. My brother was always there for me. It sucks knowing he wouldn't be there anymore if I said anything. It's like my brain doesn't want to get its hopes up. Like it's convinced me to not believe I'm loved in preparation for the day I'm not loved anymore. I don't feel anything, because I know that ultimately it won't be there anymore, so what's the point? I don't feel much when I hug my family other than melancholy. It's so bittersweet. I can barely tell them I love them because I know that if they ever found out my love for them would be superfluous. It's like in my head, I've already convinced myself they hate me, so it doesn't hurt as much when they finally do. I don't know, it just sucks. I feel really bad that they have to have someone like me. They would genuinely hate my if they ever found out. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like it, please subscribe and smash the like button. Have an amazing day.